Hello! Welcome to Andre Knows Everything. I'm Andre. My name is Andre Morton. I'm a comedian. I like to learn things, but I don't know everything. I don't know anything, actually. So I'm going to take you on a ride on this podcast to learn stuff just by using the internet in about an hour. So we're not going to learn much, but we're going to learn a little bit about a different topic each and every week. And you're going to help. Join me on my podcasting journey by commenting down below and letting me know things that I didn't discuss on the episode, that I should know, that you think I know, that you think I'm dumb, that you hate me, that you don't like me, all that stuff. Leave it in the comments and we'll talk about it. Thanks. And enjoy the show.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Andre Knows Everything. I'm Andre. This is episode 3. I think I'm gonna start banking these, recording a bunch at the same time and releasing them out. So I think this is the third one. You can see in the title. It says what episode it is. Last time I talked about incels. Before that I talked about the police. Today I am gonna talk about something that we all know about. We all use. Every single one of you. You're using it right now. Today I'm talking about the internet. And this is a podcast where I use the internet to learn about things. And I realize that I don't know too much about the internet itself. I use it constantly, all day, basically for like the past, 10, 15 years. I've just been on the internet constantly. And even before that, even as a youngin', I was on the internet all the time, looking on forums, talking to people about video games and all kinds of nerdy stuff back in the day. But I don't know how the internet works. I don't really know who invented it. I don't know anything of the intricate details about the way that internet works today. I know a little bit about Wi-Fi, I know a little bit about LTE and stuff like that, but I think I'd like to get into some of the nitty-gritty about the internet because it's an amazing tool and I love it and I hope it never goes away. So let's get into it. The internet. So I've Googled a few things here. Who invented the internet? So according to Google, it was these two dudes, Robert E. Kahn and Vint Cerf. Okay. So let's click into this history.com article from 2013 about who invented the internet. Oh, I think I have it right here actually. Is now the time that my internet is going to go out? Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. That's what I wanted. Fuck. God damn it. Okay, so the irony of doing a podcast on the internet, about the internet, involving the internet, and using the internet to look up about the internet. My internet is going out right now. My router is not having a grand old time. But I was able to pull up this article from stanford.edu. And this is called How Does the Internet Work? It was written in 2002 by Russ Schuler at Pomeroy IT Solutions. So this is a whole long 15-part essay, I guess, on how the internet works. So let's just go through a little bit of it, and hopefully by the time I'm done, my internet will be back up. Okay, yeah, we'll find out. I live in the boonies. I live out in the country, and my internet's just spotty. It's just bad all the time. It just drops out whenever it feels like it. Usually during the most important scene of a movie that I'm streaming, or right after I decide to start jerking it. Okay, so let's see here. The internet. How does the internet work? He says, good question. The internet's growth has become explosive, and it seems impossible to escape the bombardment of www.coms seen constantly on television, heard on radio, and seen in magazine. I want to remind you that this article was written in 2002. So he's not quite as even familiar as the internet with the rest of us. This was almost 20 years ago this article was written. That's interesting. Okay, so let's see here. He's beginning with internet addresses. Okay, hang on, let me see. This white paper explains the underlying infrastructure and technologies that make the internet work. It does not go into great depth, but covers enough of each area to give a basic understanding of the concepts involved. For any unanswered questions, a list of resources is provided at the end of the paper. Okay, cool. Russ. So he's starting with internet addresses, which is kind of not what I'm super interested in. But let's read it because it might give me a greater understanding of how any of this works. Because the internet is a global network of computers, each computer connected to the internet must have a unique address. Internet addresses are in the form of nnn.nnn.nnn.nnn, where NNN must be a number from 0 to 255. This address is known as an IP address. IP stands for Internet Protocol. More on that later. So I knew that. My iPad right here has an IP address. My phone has an IP address. And when they're on the same network, I believe they have the same IP address. Actually, he said each device must have a unique number. So actually, they would have different. And you can change your IP address if you use a VPN to help protect you from internet service providers and their selling of your information, which I recommend that you do. He says, the picture below illustrates two computers connected to the internet. Your computer with IP address 1.2.3.4 and another computer with IP address 5.6.7.8. The internet is represented as an abstract object in between. As this paper progresses, the internet portion of diagram 1 will be explained and redrawn several times as the details of the internet are exposed. I want a better introduction to this. Is my internet back up? Oh, I think it might be. So, I think we'll come back to Stanford in a little bit, just because I want to get a better understanding of how the internet came to be before I dive into the logistics of IP addresses and stuff like that. We're on a journey here, you guys. We're on a long journey. Hoping that this episode won't be crazy long and that I can learn some of this stuff pretty quickly. But the internet is, even though it's a relatively new technology, it's deep and it evolves rapidly over time. And so much so that, my iPad here can't get to history.com to open up this goddamn article. Sweet baby Jesus, let's go. Come on. Who invented the internet? Was it this bald guy? Maybe. This article was written in October 28th, 2019. Oh, it was originally written December 18th of 2013 by Evan Andrews. All right. Long before the technology existed to actually build the internet, many scientists had already anticipated the existence of worldwide networks of information. Nikola Tesla toyed with the idea of a world wireless system in the early 1900s, and visionary thinkers like Paul Otlet and Vannevar Bush conceived of mechanized, searchable storage systems of books and media in the 1930s and 40s. Yeah, if I was going to the library every day, trying to look stuff up and pulling books off shelves, I'd be like, there's gotta be a better way. we gotta be able to put all this in. Can I get one book that's got all the books in it? Still, the first practical schematics for the internet would not arrive until the early 1960s, when MIT's J.C.R. Licklider, that's this dude's name? J.C.R. Licklider, popularized the idea of an intergalactic network of computers. That sounds cool. That's what it should be called. The intergalactic network of computers. I was on the intergalactic network of computers the other day, and I saw the freakiest thing I've ever. It says, shortly thereafter, computer scientists developed the concept of packet switching, a method for effectively transmitting electronic data that would later become one of the major building blocks of the internet. Why am I doing this? This is electronic packets. They're moving. They're grooving. They're going. The first workable prototype of the internet came in the late 1960s with the creation of ARPANET, or the Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. Originally funded by the U.S. Department of Defense, ARPANET used packet switching to allow multiple computers to communicate on a single network. These are 1960s computers, okay? You have a computer in your pocket right now. But the computers in the 1960s took up the entirety of this room, probably even more than that. It was big honking machines. Okay. On October 29th, 1969, ARPANET delivered its first message, a node-to-node communication from one computer to another. The first computer was located in a research lab at UCLA, and the second was at Stanford. Each one was the size of a small house. Yeah, so it's a big old computer, and it's sending, in 1969, probably a 1 byte of information or something like that. But, you know, this is the first time it's ever been done. Aside from phone calls, there was nothing like this, right? Where you could send words from one place to another place miles and miles away. The message was just login, Login, login. It was short and simple, but it crashed to the fledgling ARPA network anyway. The Stanford computer only received the note's first 2 letters, LO. They tried to send Login, and LO is all that made it to Stanford. That's hilarious. The technology continued to grow in the 1970s after scientists Robert Kahn and Vinton Cerf, those are those 2 white dudes from earlier, developed Transmission Control Protocol and Internet Protocol, or TCP over IP, a communications model that set standards for how data could be transmitted between multiple networks. And the TCP over IP is still used today. I've seen those letters in that combination while I'm trying to fix my crappy internet here. ARPANET adopted TCP over IP on January 1st, 1983, and from there, researchers began to assemble the network of networks that became the modern internet. The online world then took on a more recognizable form in 1990 when computer scientist Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web. While it's often confused with the internet itself, the web is actually just the most common means of accessing data online in the form of websites and hyperlinks. The web is how your browser pulls up all of the websites that you use. That's cool. Whereas the internet is kind of like the baseline for sending information from computer to computer. Okay. I feel like I get that, right? Do you feel like you get that? Let me know. The web helped popularize the internet among the public and served as a crucial step in developing the vast trove of information that most of us now access on a daily basis. Well, thank you, Evan Andrews on history.com. That's good to know. It's a good baseline. So I don't know if I really want to go back to this Stanford article. He's getting very detailed in how pinging works, how IPs are talking to each other. Let's see if there's anything in here that doesn't have to do with packets and stacks and TCP over IP. You see all this? Look at these diagrams. Your computer talks to the internet, and the internet talks to another computer. And that allowed you to download this podcast today, which I thank you very much for. You can also continue using the internet to click subscribe on this video, and we'll keep learning together. Okay. He's talking about infrastructure. He's talking about network infrastructure. He's talking about internet routing hierarchy. This is not the stuff that I necessarily want to learn about. I don't think I need to know the 2002 version of how the internet works. Necessarily. Honestly, I'm just trying to figure out how to fix my internet. You know, how do I get this connection to be more stable? But in terms of that, when I Googled who invented the internet, a bunch of articles showed up saying like who really invented the internet, who really did it, who's the actual mastermind. Now, in that history.com article, I mean, it kind of explained it out pretty perfectly. It was like a couple dudes in the 30s who thought about it, a couple dudes in the 60s who implemented the first baseline, and a couple dudes in the 90s who like really brought it out for everybody. So it was a few people. However, what I didn't see in that was Al Gore or Bill Gates names, and I feel like those names have been brought up as people who have developed the internet before, and I'm kind of just wondering why that is. So let's look into that for just a smidge, and then we'll get into what the internet can really do. So let me just type Al Gore invented the internet. Now this is on Snopes.com, so from 2005. Did Al Gore say I invented the internet. He did not say that Andre invented the internet. Did he say that Al Gore invented the internet? Despite decades of media mirth making about this supposed statement, former Vice President Al Gore never claimed he invented the internet. Okay, that's good to know. This was published in May of 2005 by David Mickelson on Snopes.com. So it's false. He never even claimed that, let alone did he actually do it. But I kind of want to know where that came from. Oh man, there's already a big word. There's a big word. Let's see here. It says, despite the multitudinous derisive references to the supposed quote that continue to be proffered even today, former U.S. Vice President Al Gore never claimed that he invented the internet, nor did he say anything that could reasonably be interpreted that way. The legend arose from critics and pundits who plucked a relatively credible statement Gore made during the course of an interview, altering its wording and stripped of its context to make it seem a ridiculously self-serving falsehood. So normal politics stuff. We took a sound bite and it made it seem like he said something that he ain't say. It's like he's on a reality show. The Al Gore claimed he invented the internet put-downs were misleading distortions that originated with a campaign interview conducted by Wolf Blitzer on CNN's Late Edition program on March of 1999. Because he was seeking the 2000 presidential election. I really wish I could get these ads out of here. You know, I don't need to see this MILF sweatshirt down at the bottom here while I'm reading this. When asked to describe what distinguished him from his challenger for the Democratic presidential nomination, Senator Bill Bradley of New Jersey said, during my service in the United States Congress, I took the initiative in creating the internet. I took the initiative in moving forward a whole range of initiatives that have proven to be important to our country's economic growth and environmental protection, improvements in our educational system. In context, Gore's response, which employed the word created, not invented, was clear in meaning. The vice president was not claiming that he invented the internet, in the sense of having thought up, designed, or implemented it, but rather asserting that he was one of the visionaries responsible for helping to bring it into being by fostering its development in an economic and legislative sense. Okay. I took the initiative in creating the internet. I mean, sure. The claim that Gore was actually trying to take credit for the invention of the internet was plainly just derisive political posturing that arose out of a close presidential campaign. If, for example, Dwight Eisenhower had said in the mid-1960s that he, while president, took the initiative in creating the interstate highway system, he would not have been the subject of dozens and dozens of editorials lampooning him for claiming that he invented the concept of highways or implying that he personally went out and dug ditches across the country to help build the roadway. Okay, I got it. Al Gore didn't invent the internet. I don't feel like I need to read all the rest of the stuff. Well, maybe I do. I don't know. What do you guys think? Should I go back and read this entire thing? I'll find out in the next episode, and not right now today. So that's basically it. As for the history of its invention, its inception. But let's see what its intentions are. Like the internet, as far as I'm concerned, has come an extremely long way. And it's an extremely helpful tool. It's so useful for literally everyone in the world who has access to it, and the people who can get access to it within their lifetimes, in developing countries and stuff like that. But it's also used for a lot of dark, nefarious things. The dark web, where the black market lives and thrives currently. So I know that there's a lot of thought out there for a free and open web, right? A place where you can go without fear of persecution from any regional government, because the online world is the online world and shouldn't have to abide by your laws or whatever. And I know that a few years ago there were several laws and things being put in place to kind of tamp down the internet, and I can't remember any of the acronyms for any of them suckers right now, so let's look them up. Okay, so we're gonna take a look at net neutrality and what that means in terms of the free and open web. Net neutrality was a term that kind of came up a few years ago, maybe further back than even I'm thinking. But it's basically saying that the internet should be neutral. It should be free and open, so anyone can get on and do whatever they want. And let's get into this guide from Wired that will explain more than I can. Let's see here. The Wired Guide to Net Neutrality. ISPs shouldn't be able to block some sorts of data and prioritize others. Here's what to know about the struggle to treat all information on the internet the same. Net neutrality is the idea that internet service providers like Comcast and Verizon, or Charter, like what I have, treat all content flowing through their cables and cell towers equally. That means they shouldn't be able to slide some data into fast lanes while blocking or otherwise discriminating against other material. In other words, these companies shouldn't be able to block you from accessing a service like Skype or slow down Netflix or Hulu in order to encourage you to keep your cable package or buy a different video streaming service. So I kind of skipped over from the invention of the internet to now. Now your internet is kind of controlled by an internet service provider. You have to call a company, get them to give you their tools to allow you to access the portion of the internet that they can provide, and because those companies have that control, and you have to pay them to access the internet at your home or wherever you work or whatever, they can theoretically control which sites you have access to. But the theory of net neutrality is that they shouldn't be able to do that at all, like at all. Your ISP should not be blocking anything coming from the internet. Right? Right. Let's keep going. The Federal Communications Commission spent years, the FCC, under both the Bush and Obama administrations trying to enforce net neutrality protections. After a series of legal defeats at the hands of broadband providers, the FCC passed a sweeping net neutrality order in 2015. But in December of 2017, the now Republican-controlled FCC voted to jettison that order, freeing broadband providers to block or throttle content as they see fit, unless Congress or the courts block the agency's decision. And this is basically business and money related. It's all economics. If the ISPs can block certain websites from you, their reasoning is, if you pay us more, then we'll unblock it. And if you pay us even more, then we'll unblock this other stuff. And if you pay us even more, then you can unlock this other stuff. It's very a prohibitive and a very cost prohibitive way of controlling the internet, so that you end up paying them more to access stuff that you should have access to at the lowest level of their payment system. Right? Now, what they do control is the speed at which you get the internet, right? So you can pay more for faster speeds. You can pay more for different types of cable and whatnot, which to me makes sense. But even still, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, you pay us, $50 extra a month, and we'll hit the button that allows you to to stream it faster. It's not like I don't really know how ISPs work or how much difficulty there is in providing internet to you. What their upkeep on these cables, this data is like. Maybe I'll look at that a little bit later. But let's keep going with net neutrality. Net neutrality advocates have long argued that keeping the internet an open playing field is crucial for innovation. If broadband providers pick favorites online, new companies and technologies might never have the chance to grow. For example, had internet providers blocked or severely limited video streaming in the mid-2000s, we might not have Netflix or YouTube today. You wouldn't be able to watch Andre Knows Everything on YouTube. Whatever would you do? Other advocates highlight the importance of net neutrality for free expression. A handful of large telecommunications companies dominate the broadband market, which puts an enormous amount of power into their hands to suppress particular views or limit online speech to those who can pay the most. So net neutrality became completely politicized as well. But it became politicized because the ISPs could then politicize it if net neutrality wasn't a thing. If they could just be like, I don't like what all these Democrats are saying. Democrats are blocked on the internet. You can't see it. If you want to see the Democrats, you can pay us, $200 more or whatever, which makes it so that only Republican voices are heard on the internet, which sounds just straight up fucking terrible to me. So I'm all for net neutrality. Let's let all the voices be heard, including mine. Most large broadband providers promised not to block or throttle content ahead of the ruling, but all 4 major mobile carriers began slowing down at least some video content before the FCC had fully repealed the rules. Net neutrality advocates worry things could get worse. A broadband provider might, for example, allow some companies to pay for priority treatment on broadband networks. The fear is that over time, companies and organizations that either can't afford priority treatment or simply aren't offered access to it will fall by the wayside. So small businesses, everybody, you just die, and the Walmarts of the world get to thrive because they got the money. And that's not fair. It's really not fair. I don't know why I fake cried just there. So here's the history of net neutrality from a 2003 paper. Wi-Fi routers, the Bush era. Okay, I think I kind of get the gist of net neutrality. Look at Jason Momoa over here. The internet is distracting. Okay, I get distracted by it constantly, every day it feels like, and you go out there, you're looking for information, and then the stuff pops in. So I think privacy became another big issue over the internet pretty recently. I think in just the last couple of years, there was laws passed that made it so that different types of websites have to tell you different things in order for them to comply with the law. Cookies. Let's look up what internet cookies are, because I see it on basically every single website, including my own website, thewallwallpod.com. Websites have to disclose that they are giving you some cookies that will extract data that they will then almost definitely sell because they have the information, and it's kind of anonymized, but not really, depending on how they're using it. Okay, so an HTTP cookie. This is what websites are grabbing from you, I think. Also called a web cookie, an internet cookie, a browser cookie, or simply just a cookie. I love cookies, I think sugar cookies are my favorite. But an internet cookie is a small piece of data sent from a website and stored on the user's computer by the user's web browser while the user is browsing. I'm browsing, the website gave me a cookie, and it's stored there. Cookies were designed to be a reliable mechanism for websites to remember stateful information, such as items added in the shopping cart or an online store, or to record the user's browsing activity, including clicking particular buttons, logging in, or recording pages which were visited in the past. They can also be used to remember pieces of information that the user previously entered into form fields, such as names, addresses, passwords, and credit card numbers. So when you're browsing, you type in you're registering for a website, and you type in first name, and all your information just shows up. Those are cookies. That data has been stored by cookies. Cookies perform essential functions in the modern web. Perhaps most importantly, authentication cookies are the most common method used by web browsers to know whether the user is logged in or not, and which account they are logged in with. Without such a mechanism, the site would not know whether to send a page containing sensitive information or require the user to authenticate themselves by logging in. The security of an authentication cookie generally depends on the security of the issuing website and the user's web browser, and on whether the cookie data is encrypted. Security vulnerabilities may allow a cookie's data to be read by a hacker, used to gain access to user data, or used to gain access with the user's credentials to the website with which the cookie belongs. So cookies can be used for good or evil, apparently. Here we go. Tracking cookies, and especially third-party tracking cookies, are commonly used as ways to compile long-term records of individuals' browsing histories, a potential privacy concern that prompted European and US lawmakers to take action in 2011. European law requires that all websites targeting European Union member states gain informed consent from users before storing non-essential cookies on their device. Non-essential cookies. So when those websites show the thing saying, "Hey, we're gonna give you some cookies, and you're gonna take them, and then we're gonna use them, and we might do some stuff with them, and you can either participate in that or you cannot. You can opt out, but opting out oftentimes makes the website less effective for you. Your name and stuff isn't gonna fill in to all those search fields when you register if you're not using the cookies. Okay, so I kind of knew all of that, but it's good to flesh it out. It's good to read and get in there. So this talked about the European Union. I kind of just want to compare how the internet works in America versus how it works in other countries. So let's look into that. Okay, so I've gone to a comparison site. This is businessinsider.com. This is written by Kisato Goya and Rukaya Moynihan on businessinsider.com on July 24th, 2018. The 23 countries in the world with the fastest internet speeds. I'm just so positive that the US is going to be number one on this list. So broadband speed varies depending on the country you're located in. It even varies from one region to another within countries. Yeah, like, no duh, there's so many states here. British data analysis firm Cable analyzed 200 countries according to their average broadband speed. The United States of America has shockingly low internet speeds compared with other smaller places around the world. So let's get to the list. Here are the 23 countries in the world where broadband internet is the fastest. France, number 23, 24.23 megabits per second. Now, just for frame of reference, this is an average for their entire country, right? So like my house, I pay for, I believe, 200 megabits per second. I often do not receive those speeds here out in Countryville, USA, where I live, but the speed is supposedly 200 megabits per second, and I don't pay that much for it. I think it's like $45 a month or something like that, which isn't too bad. But in other places in the country, speeds like that are not provided, or speeds like that you can't get access to without paying way more. So I think our average is going to be much lower than the speeds that I'm supposedly getting here in the U.S. In fact, just before I read this article, let's do a speed test, baby. Let's see here. This is speedtest.net. Your mileage may vary. I run speed tests all the time because I'm obsessed with how fast my internet is going, especially when it's going out. But it's looking good right now. Okay, I'm getting 224 megabits per second download. My upload speed will be much lower, but that's fine because it's all good. So my download speed was 226 megabits per second. My upload speed is averaging around 11 megabits per second, and that basically just means that I'm able to download things pretty fast and upload things at a reasonable rate to the internet using my current IP address, which is not showing on this page anywhere, right? Okay, cool. So let's go back. So France, their average is 24.23 megabits per second throughout the entire country. Oh, I thought they were going to give a little bit of explanation for these, but I guess not. Madagascar is number 22 on this list. That's interesting. Slovakia, 25 megabits. And then the US, here we are at 25 megabits per second. That is across the entirety of the US. That's over 300 million people who aren't all connected to the internet all at the same time or anything, but that's our average speeds, 25. I remember in college, I think I was paying for 25 megabits per second, and it worked okay for the most part. I remember downloading video games back then was kind of rough. It's kind of rough. They're big files. Big files. So let's go see who's better than us. China. No, wait, hang on. This says Hong Kong. Many think of Hong Kong as a city, but with its own currency, immigration channels, and legal system, there's actually a full international border between Hong Kong and China. I had no idea about that. I did not know that at all. That's very interesting. So within the city-state of Hong Kong, their internet speeds are 26 megabits per second. And I wonder how the rest of China does. That's interesting. Okay. Andorra is at 27, which is the sixth smallest nation in Europe. I think if you're in a smaller country, it's easier to get this average way up, right? We're a huge country, and we're number 20 on this list. Okay, let's keep going. Lithuania is at 27. Spain is at 27. Estonia is at 27. Taiwan is at 29. To this day, most countries don't recognize Taiwan as an independent country. Kind of like Hong Kong, but I guess even worse. Latvia is at 28. Now, wait a second. You just said that number 14 is Taiwan at 29.09. And Latvia is number 13. Wait, which way is this? Yeah. We're going down. Am I crazy? Am I stupid? Isn't 29 bigger than 28? Latvia had 2 colonies at one point, St. Andrews Island, now Kunta Kinte Island in Gambia River, and Tobago in the Caribbean. Okay, that didn't have anything to do with the internet. Japan is number 12 at 28.94 megabits per second. I still don't understand why Taiwan. Oh, is it just because Taiwan isn't recognized as an independent country that it gets to be lower on this list than some of these other suckers with less internet speed than it? Whatever. Japan's at 28. Switzerland is at 29.92 megabits per second. Old Jersey is at 30. Look at you guys go. Hungary is at 34. So that's a big thing. Okay, from 30 to 34, whereas the rest of these were in the 26 to 30 range. That's kind of crazy. Hungary shares borders with Austria, Croatia, Romania, Serbia, Slovakia, Slovenia, and Ukraine. Luxembourg has 35 megabits per second. Now, okay, so this article is kind of a little bit useless. I thought they were going to explain why their speeds are faster than us, but I guess we just have to be under the assumption that they're handling it. I guess I don't know. I have no idea. The Netherlands, Belgium is at 36. Romania is at 38. Now we're in the top 5. Norway is at 40 megabits per second. Norway is suspected to have the world's largest sovereign wealth fund, estimated to be worth $1 trillion by 2020. Well, look at you guys go. Good on you, Norway. Denmark is at 43.99 megabits per second. And they got a hot lady statue. Sweden is at 46. Now, I think I knew this. I think I thought that Sweden had the most powerful internet in the entire world. But it's not number 1 on this weird list. And once again, I don't know why. It says over 50% of Sweden is covered by forest, but there are also around 100,000 lakes and over 24,000 islands across the country. Do the lakes get good Wi-Fi or what? Tell me, man. And number 1, oh my God, wait, hang on. What? Number 2 is Sweden at 46 megabits per second. And number 1 is Singapore at 60 megabits per second for the entire country. And Singapore, I mean, it is small, but it's not as small as some of these other places. Singapore is one of the 3 surviving city-states in the world, including Monaco and the Vatican. And that's the end of that. Interesting. So I kind of want to dive just a little bit deeper into that. I want to know why their internet is so much faster than ours. And once again, I guess it is just because they're small. But oh, okay, this is interesting. I probably should have saved that last link to see when it was written. But according to worldpopulationreview.com, Singapore is at 153. So now I wonder if that entire section that I just read was useless. Do I still have it up? I do. Let me just go up to the top on this Business Insider article. When was this written? In 2018. Okay. The data used to produce the league, compiled by British data analysis firm Cable, ranks 200 countries according to their average broadband speeds in megabits per second. The analysis was collated by MLab, a partnership between New America's Open Technology Institute, Google Open Source Research, Princeton University's Planet Lab, and other supporting partners, and compiled by cable between June 2017 and May 2018. And then we went on to that boring ass list. But this one on worldpopulationreview.com is saying in 2020, we're checking broadband speeds. Okay, and it goes up to 200. Hover over country for details. According to this, okay, hover isn't really working. Pull out the mouse. The United States has an average broadband speed of 115 megabits per second, a mobile broadband speed of 34.76 per second, and our population is 331 million. Whereas, I don't know where Singapore is on this map. Whereas China has an 89.43 megabits per second average speed. So this seems a little bit more accurate. worldpopulationreview.com. More accurate to average internet speeds today. Whereas that other one I was looking at on Business Insider, it seemed like it was from several years ago. But it said it was 2017, 2018, which is not long ago. According to Ookla, a company that specializes in internet speed testing, I think Ookla owns speedtest.net, internet speeds rose by an average of 30% in 2017. As technology becomes more advanced and networks are improved, these numbers are expected to continue to grow. Based on data from Ookla, Singapore is the nation with the fastest broadband download speeds. Internet speeds in this country are 153.85 megabits per second. That is more than double that of the United States, which has broadband download speeds of 75.94 megabits per second. That makes more sense to moi. So other super fast countries, Hungary, Macau, Sweden, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Lithuania, us, and Denmark. So that all makes sense. Now, with all of that said, this mentioned mobile broadband speeds, mobile internet speeds, which kind of leads me into the new technology that is coming about today that people are hysterically scared about, 5G. Your phone back in the day had 2G, then there was 3G. Now there was 4G LTE, which gives you pretty fast speeds for your phone. When my phone disconnects from my 200 megabits per second Wi-Fi and connects to LTE, it normally gets around, I don't know, like 40, 50 megabits per second download speeds. And that works fairly well for me, even out here in the country. I like that. And LTE has become more ubiquitous all around the United States, so much so that the technology has advanced and now 5G is on its way. And I don't know that much about 5G. I've tried to watch a couple of videos on it, but it always kind of seems to elude me what the actual power of 5G is going to be. I know that the speeds, let's see, 5G speeds versus 4G are supposed to be like double, triple the amount of numbers. So my 40, once I get a 5G phone, will increase to like 150, 200 megabits per second, almost as fast as my cable Wi-Fi, which leads me to the question of, do I even need Wi-Fi from an ISP when I can just get it from 5G through my mobile provider? Get one of their hotspots or whatever, and that would be my home internet. I don't know, man. Let's take a look. I don't know that I want to go to a mobile carrier. T-Mobile has some information. Let's go to digital trends. This is from June 7th, 2020. Oh, it was just a few days ago. 5G versus 4G. How will the next generation improve on the last? This is written by Simon Hill and Paula Beaton on June 7th, 2020 on digitaltrends.com. Let's see here. We've looked at how fast 5G is before, but there isn't a specific speed that we can expect. Instead, think of 5G as offering a speed range, and the actual speeds you will get depend on what network you're connecting to, how busy it is, what device you're using, and a few other factors. This table gives you a rough idea of the maximum speeds of each generation of cell network technology and the average speeds in the real world. So, okay, so here's all the G's I listed before. 2G, very little, very, very small. Can you guys see this? It says 0.3 megabits per second. The average speed is 0.1 megabits per second. 3G, we go to 7.2 as the maximum. A faster form of 3G called HSPA+, got to 42 megabits per second. That's pretty good. 4G gets about 150 megabits per second. That's the maximum. The average is 10 megabits per second. And the 4G LTE gets you 300 megabits per second to 1 gigabit per second, right? Megabit, gigabit. That's 1,000 megabits. That's the max. 4G LTE average speeds are 15 megabits per second to 50 megabits per second, like I said, what I normally get. Now, 5G, it says that the maximum speeds will be 1 to 10 gigabits per second. That's crazy fast. The average for 5G will be 50 megabits per second and up. So just at least as good as the maximum, or not the maximum, at least as good as the average for 4G LTE. And the sky is the limit, basically, on 5G speeds. See, they say the topic is complicated by the variety of different technologies that are used in each generation, geographical differences in coverage, and by the fact that the technology continues to evolve and improve over time. For example, 4G has improved significantly over its lifetime with the development of LTE, which means long-term evolution. I didn't know that. And then LTE-A, long-term evolution advanced. You can theoretically get up to 1 gigabit per second with the latest 4G LTE-A developments, which is the lower end of what 5G hopes to deliver. The average speeds you get in the real world will be inevitably much lower. I guess I should make it so you guys can see that. Excuse me. So yeah, it's gonna be fast, or at least a little bit better than what you get right now. And 5G is being implemented in the U.S. right now. There are networks that have it available, and there are phones that can access it. However, from what I've heard, the scope is pretty limited. The way that the 5G towers work in comparison to the 4G towers is kind of like crazy. The range is like really small. In the videos I was watching like last year on 5G, dudes were like, okay, I got a 5G phone. It works with 5G. All I have to do is get super duper close to a tower to get it to work. When I'm here on the street by the light pole where the 5G tower is, I get 500 megabits per second. When I walk down the street, at the other end of the street, farther away from where the pole is, I'm back down to 50 megabits per second. So I don't know what they need to do to expand all of that and get it to work everywhere in the United States. I don't know if we just got to have a tower everywhere, or what kind of infrastructure they have to build to get it up and running. Let's see if they talk about that at all. Coverage. It has taken years for 4G networks to spread across the world, and there are still plenty of rural areas relying on 3G networks, right? Even where there is 4G coverage, the speeds vary quite widely. We expect rollout of 5G networks to take a while. We also expect the rollout will follow a similar pattern to 4G, with cities being the first to benefit. We tried out Verizon's 5G network in Chicago, but it only covers a handful of spots right now. So within the city, it's not even covered throughout the entire city. It's just a couple of spots. And this was from June 2017, right? Yeah, or 2020. Verizon is employing millimeter wave, wave technology, which requires the deployment of a large number of 5G nodes because those particular signals have a very short range and are easily blocked by walls, with the trade-off that they offer faster speeds. AT&T is also planning to use wave technology, as is T-Mobile, following its recent merger with Sprint. It became the first carrier to create a nationwide US 5G network, available in around 5,000 cities and towns, as well as many rural locations. Regardless of the underlying technology, logistically, there's a lot of work to be done to build 5G networks, and it will likely take years. So I'm a huge tech head. I read about tech and mobile carriers and phones and stuff all the time. So I know that there are rumors that the next iPhone will be 5G capable. There are a couple of Samsung Galaxy phones right now that are 5G capable. But until all of this infrastructure has been implemented to get it everywhere, you're not going to be able to access 5G. You know, they got to build this stuff out, especially if you live out in the boonies like I do. And, you know, I live in the boonies of the boonies. I live in the very center of California in a small town, and then I live on the edge of that small town. So my coverage, as long as I live here, is going to be pretty limited. But if you live in a big city like LA or San Francisco, those are going to get 5G coverage within the coming months and years, you know, if they don't have it already. They mentioned Chicago has some, but not quite yet. 5G doesn't mean 4G is done, of course. On these 5G phones that have access to the 5G network, the 4G LTE will still have to be there on the back end to help you out when you don't have access to 5G, which will be most of the time, until like 2024 or whatever, when it's more robust. Okay, so this is all interesting. True 5G networks has already started to spread across major cities, with AT&T 5G available in 190 metropolitan areas across the country. The availability of 5G plus AT&T's millimeter wave deployments has so far been rolled out to around 36 cities and locales around the country. But even if you live in a major city, 5G may only be available in certain locales. Although there are already a handful of phones that can take advantage of the technology, like the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G, most of us are still at least a year or two away from being able to access 5G. In the meantime, 4G will continue to serve us well. So that's that. That's the internet. I've been talking about it for just about an hour now. I think I have a slightly more firm grasp on the internet and how it works, and you know, what I would like to see from it for the future. Net neutrality, 5G speeds. We didn't talk about Wi-Fi 6, but right now you probably have a Wi-Fi 4 or 5 router, which enables you to access certain devices on a Wi-Fi signal and stuff like that. And Wi-Fi 6 has recently been released. New routers have to come out. For that, you have to get a new router to access a Wi-Fi 6 signal, and that would provide faster speeds from the ISPs. So it's only going up from here, but that net neutrality fight and the privacy fights have to keep happening so that you can access all of the internet at its most robust and keep getting them quick speeds. So I think I'm going to be done for now. Thank you guys so much for listening to Andre Knows Everything. I now know a little bit more about the internet. If you want to follow me, I'm at Andre Morton Jr. on Instagram and Twitter. Hit my links in the description. I'm part of the Deaf Puppies Comedy Crew. Follow us at Deaf Puppies Comedy. I host another podcast called The Walt Vault, where we talk about Disney movies. Follow us there at The Walt Vault Pod. All those links will be in my link tree in the description below. I love you all. Thank you so much for listening. I now know more today than I did yesterday. Bye-bye.